Welcome to Evanston Woman Today with LDB. Today I'll be speaking with Tracey Reaves, Coordinator of Adolescent Education and Clinical Services, and Dr. Michael Losoff, Senior Psychologist. Both professionals are with Yellowbrick program located here in Evanston. We'll be addressing young adult issues during COVID. What are the biggest concerns you've seen families face with during COVID?
I would say there's two basic categories of concerns, or two basic categories to describe the concerns. One is in terms of loss, and the other is in terms of disruption. So in terms of loss, we are all experiencing a tremendous sense of loss with COVID, with the loss of our regular life, the loss of being able to be with people, loss of, for a lot of us, being able to go to work. So there's a real sense of loss of normal life. And with loss comes grieving, and so I think all of us are going through a grief process. It's the beginning of the COVID quarantine. For teenagers are also going through the grief process, but it takes a particular twist for them in the sense that there's also developmental rituals and events that occur that help teenagers in their development. So for example, graduation. That's an important event in everyone's life, but it's really important for teenagers because it marks an important change of time for them. So the loss of those kinds of rituals is really painful for teenagers and confusing. Things like participating in extracurricular activities like theater groups or music groups or being on sports teams, these are all things that help adolescents, help teenagers develop themselves and help them find a sense of identity, and the loss of that creates a sense of grief for them and a sense of trying to struggle on what to do. Also, there's a lot of disruption. Disruption in family relationships, disruption in regular activities like summer activities, disruption in let's just go with those two. And really, one of the most important things is disruption in education. So one of the things that teenagers have been wrestling with is what to do about education. I want to turn that topic over to Tracey.
Yeah, so thank you, Michael. What we're seeing is something where, having a ritual like a graduation, right? There's drive-by graduations now with people coming by and taking pictures and, having it online, right? It's not really a gathering of a lot of people that teenagers are really, really looking forward to. And I think right now with the education moving so much online, what's happening is that teens aren't able to communicate in the way that they would if they were able to be in a classroom together, in person. A lot of communication happens through nonverbal communication.
All right, thanks, Tracey. There's two other major factors of disruptions I think are important. One is disruption in family relationships. As everyone's all under the same roof for such a long period of time, on the one hand, it gives people a chance to get to know each other. On the other hand, it can create conflict among family members. It can magnify conflict that might already exist. What we usually in day-to-day life, the little minor conflicts can be glossed over by families, or can not have to be dealt with directly by families because people are busy, there's disruptions going on, there's distractions going on, but when everyone's all under the same roof, even minor conflicts can really begin to take on a focus. There's another important disruption, and that is disruption in the ability to explore. And one thing that's really important for adolescents, for teenagers, is using the world to explore. It's the way they learn who they are and what kind of relationships they want to have. And being in the house and being under quarantine really disrupts that sense of being able to explore.
What are the most important factors to address as families with teenagers move into summer?
Yeah, okay. So I think safety is one of the major things to address. Safety in two ways. Safety in terms of when things are so disruptive, especially now after the George Floyd incident and all the social unrest, we all have a sense of our safety being challenged. And that even existed even before that, just the sense of safety of the normal routine. So I think talking to your children about that, talking to your teenagers about that safety and what it means to you and how you can develop a sense of safety for yourself helps them. And I think also safety in terms of helping our teenagers themselves keep safe. As I walk down the street now that things are a little more open, when I ever see teenagers, none of them are wearing masks, and none of them are less than 2 inches from each other, much less 6 feet. So adolescents aren't really good at monitoring this kind of thing, but that doesn't mean that as parents we don't want to attune to those safety issues and remind them about that. Communicating a sense of confidence that even though life is really disrupted, and even though the disruption is going to last for a while, and even though there is the challenge of the social unrest, it's important to communicate a sense of confidence that we will ultimately get through it together. So communicating that sense of confidence.
Summer, you just got done with a school year that you haven't seen your friends in 2 months, 3 months, and now it's summer, and even though there's certain things that have lifted in the area, there are still restrictions. You still can't really go out to a restaurant unless you have the outdoor seating. So normal things, spending time over the summer with your friends is not going to be the same, and education is also in that as well. What will it look like if you need to make up credits? What will it look like for a teenager who maybe was applying to a college, and what's happening in that realm? Are the applications still making their way to the colleges, and all of those other types of questions that a lot of teenagers might be asking coming into this new season. So one thing is to always make sure that you are taking care of yourself and staying on track. So if there's any questions, any content that maybe you feel like you didn't understand from that year, start to write down some questions of what you want to ask your teachers in the fall. Hey, listen, I really didn't understand that concept at the end of spring. I really kind of need a refresher. And your teachers will help you. So make sure that you, as you stay on track, know that you can go to your teachers and to your community with those.
To whom should families turn to for help to address these factors?
One, of course, is to each other. And I think that Zoom and other video platforms have really taken a major role in the adjustment for all of us. It's a way that we can connect with each other. So we say social distancing, but we really don't mean distance from our social relationships. Mm-hmm. And I think that the video conferences that we have with each other is really very important. It also, ironically, likely has expanded the number of people we have contact with and even the frequency of contact. So like once a week, it helped us in that way. We can also turn to our religious leaders or the religious institutions that we belong to. We can't go to services the way we used to, but a lot of the religious organizations have adapted to that and found ways to keep people connected to each other and to make clergy available to parents. Professionals, of course, I know that all of my colleagues are really attuned to what's going on and really working hard to be available to people as they might need it. So turning to professional is a fine way to sort through some issues. Doesn't have to be anything overly involved, or it could be a longer commitment if you wanted to. And there are also some websites that I want to share with you, I think, that link to important resources. First, of course, Yellowbrickprogram.com, that's our website. Mm-hmm. There is important information that you'll find there, and there's all sorts of information about Yellowbrick and about the struggles that people are going through. Also, adolescenthealth.org. That's the website from the Society for Adolescent Health and Medicine. And if you go onto that site and search under COVID and parent resources, you'll find a lot of important and useful information. samhsa.gov, mm-hmm. That's Society for Abuse and it's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA. And they don't only focus on substance abuse, they focus on mental health a lot as well. Again, if you search that site for COVID and parent resources, you'll find some really useful resources on not only what's going on, but how to talk to your teens. Finally, cdc.gov, the Centers for Disease Control. That's your basic source of information just about what's going on with COVID. but also they have some also important and good parent resources.
What is Yellowbrick and why focus on adolescents and emerging adults?
Yellowbrick's a lot of different things. I think generally speaking, Yellowbrick is a comprehensive treatment facility for adolescents and emerging adults whose struggles have disrupted their ability to move forward in the way they want to. And teenagers and emerging adults in a comprehensive kind of way, so we look at things really from all different angles of development. So not only developmental and emotional and psychological growth, but also brain growth and neurological growth. And those two, as you might imagine, kind of go hand in hand. So during adolescence and young adulthood, the brain is developing at a more rapid and more robust pace than any other time in life except for early childhood. And we attune to that development and to the psychological development, both in understanding the young people we work with. If there are troubles, the ability to intervene and help correct a bad path can have a lifelong impact because the brain is developing so rapidly. One thing the brain does, which I think is really neat, it's called pruning. So as neurological connections or neuronal connections are made, the brain will stop making connections that it doesn't need and grow and expand connections that it does need. And so if there's a bad behavior path that's a person's going down, the brain will wire itself to attune to that path. So our ability to intervene in something like that and help them go down a more healthy path can help the brain develop in a more healthy way. I think that, in a sense, in the crux, that's what really we work to do here at Yellowbrick, is help correct growth in that way.
If it wires together, it fires together.
That's great.
Right?
Did that get picked up? Or? Okay.
I love that. I've done so much research.
What is unique about Yellowbrick's Adolescent Integrative Services?
Unique with our understanding of adolescents and with our emerging adults. So I think we take an unusually comprehensive approach. So as I was saying before, we look at development and neurological development, or what we call developmental neurobiological model. And we incorporate all those things. I think a lot of the programs will focus on one element or another element, but we really work hard to incorporate everything, understanding that when there are struggles that have become really problematic, to help change that is no small task. And we understand that a variety of angles, intervening on a variety of different angles really increases the chance that we can make a lasting change. So psychotherapy, neuromodulatory interventions like neurofeedback, mind-body connections, cognitive behavioral connections, but also we have substance use treatment here. We attune to if there's a disrupted sense of connection to one's body, such as might be the case in eating disorders or self-injury. We have specialists here to do that. We have nutritionists on staff. So there's a lot of different angles that we approach, and I think that makes this program unique. Another important thing that makes Yellowbrick unique is our commitment to sticking with families through the process.
Yeah.
So changing a pattern of behavior that's really disruptive to both the family and the child takes a while, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride. And we're really committed to sticking with the family and the teenager or young adult through that roller coaster ride. One of the things we do, I think that's unique, is any family that's here, any child that's here, whether it's an emerging adult or an adolescent, they get a family liaison who's available to families 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we understand there's going to be crises, and we see our mission as being to be present with families through that crisis. Finally, I think an important way Yellowbrick is different is that it's the maturity of our staff. The average number of years of experience of our staff is 20 years, which I think is quite different than a lot of programs where it's not that less experienced staff aren't effective, but of course, given the enormity of the issues we're facing, I think the extra experience sort of helps drive the change more deeply.
For information on summer services for high school teens, please visit yellowbrickprogram.com.